Take a look at these 4 volcanoes. Odds are you recognize all but one of them. Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, Mount Baker, and Glacier Peak, probably the least recognizable yet possibly the most dangerous volcano in Washington state.
Glacier Peak is much like Mount St. Helens in that it can be very explosive.
For years, KIRO 7's Graham Johnson has been telling you about Washington's hidden volcano.
In order to get this vantage point, we drove about a half an hour outside Darrington on a Forest Service road.
George Bergantz is a professor of Earth and Space Sciences at the University of Washington. He says what makes Glacier Peak so dangerous is that unknown.
Currently, Glacier Peak seems to be a very quiet volcano because it's so remote and it's in a wilderness area. It's very difficult to get to. Generally, helicopters are not permitted to land, so it's hard to deploy instruments and service them.
There was a small eruption 300 years ago, but 13,000 years ago, Bergantz says Glacier Peak experienced an eruption larger than the deadly one at Mount St. Helens in 1980. If, or more likely when, that happens again.
It would be communities in central eastern Washington and Montana that might be impacted by the ash. But on the other hand, the lahars, which would result from the melting of the glaciers on Glacier Peak, would largely impact communities to the west because they would travel down the rivers of Swiattle, Whitechuck, Sauk into the Skagit and send lahars, which are big muddy debris flows, down the Skagit River out into the Skagit Delta.
Which underscores the desperate need for increased monitoring on Glacier Peak. And we've learned that may be just around the corner.
High to very high threat volcanoes.
In January, U.S. Senator Maria Cantwell testified before Congress that a volcano early warning and monitoring bill she sponsored has never been more compulsory than it is right now.
Natural hazards are unpreventable, but the more we know about the science and the causes of hazard, the better we can prepare for these events and build more resilient and safer communities.
Cantwell's bill has passed the Senate and is awaiting a vote in the House. It would free up $55 million over 5 years to add seismic monitoring stations to Glacier Peak and others severely shortchanged.
And also fund a 24-hour volcano crisis center that would be charged with monitoring the collective input from all the expressions of volcanic activity in the United States.
In 2014, KIRO 7 uncovered Glacier Peak is the least monitored of our state's 5 volcanoes, with just 1 seismic monitoring station compared to Mount St. Helens' 20 and Mount Rainier's 9. Cantwell is pushing for 5. Other scientists we've talked to say we need 8.
But one thing's for sure, 1 is not enough on Glacier Peak.
In Western Washington, Joanna Small, KIRO 7 News.
As your Monday.